hertz range, which is dead, there is a delay of roughly 3 seconds when something is said and they respond. That's only on EVPs. On SB7s, the average turnaround time for response is 7 seconds. Now, this tells me there's a distance between us and them. A distance of relativity when it comes to the theory thereof, or is it truly a spatial difference? Do they truly reside physically 3 seconds away at the speed of light, which would be probably almost to the distance of the moon? And when they respond, it takes that long to come back. Or are they right next to us? And for them to process what we said, because they don't have a brain, their energy, and in order for them to manipulate their energy or grab some energy from one of us and then formulate the words into, without vocal cords, into what they used to sound like. That might be the 3 second delay. What says you, Debra?
I'm not sure. I'm really curious to find out if I took the actual death date of somebody and then got a hold of them through my psychic ability and get the year that they died and when I heard them, and find out if that 3 seconds, like if they said they died 8 years ago, divide that into the year now to see how many, 3 seconds or how many hours, whatever, days that 8 years actually is.
One of the most brilliant algorithms found by the Greeks early on was pi, which is 3.416, whatever. And that is specific. It will never change. And it gives the circumference of a circle if you multiply the diameter thereof. However, I think there is an algorithm to response time, irregardless of the equipment you're using, because when we were talking, that energy continues to go. For example, the Honeymooners show is now just hitting Alpha, which is the closest star?
Venus?
No. It's a planet.
Oh.
I don't know. You know how many stars? Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri. And the light of that show is just hitting it now. So if those people had TVs, they're relative to us. They're going, oh, those people are so behind. They have black and white TV. That would be the theory of relativity. Relative to them is what they view us as now. So if we look at a star at night and it's 100 million light years away, but it's really bright, and you point to your lover and say, kiss me, because that star is so pretty, that star may not exist anymore. It might have blown up 1,000 years ago.
Right.
But the light is still coming here. Like when you shut off a hose, the water, the line of the water is still going out, but it ends. We're still picking up that light. So it's relative to us. What we see and visualize and process may not be what's really there. So what I'm trying to do, and I think that was a good one you said, Deb, you're trying to figure out relative to perhaps their potential crossing into the fourth dimension. And there goes my voice. Always happens at an hour and a half in a show. Hey, another collateral from ARDS. Thank you very much. But the fact is, they're consistent response times. And I talked to other groups about it, and they're like, oh, well, who cares? Well, I care, because I think if we can find the mathematics within, we can find out truly, are they really close to us? Then separated by time, which is, oh my God, a headache. You throw that in there, and you're having conversations. I know someone who had a conversation in a house for girls. Someone had died, and she was on the register 100 years ago, and her name was Sophia, and had a dynamic conversation for 20 minutes with the woman. It was a beautiful conversation. They were friendly to each other. They liked each other. One girl was talking to another, but only separated by the veil of time. 100 years. I mean, these two girls would have loved to have been in the same dorm at a college together. But one was separated by time because life goes on.
That's why the little boy that I was talking about that kept coming through saying, I'm going to see my parents in 3 days. Is the time yet? And he was popping in every 3 seconds. Makes me wonder if somebody died 8 years ago, if you took that 3 seconds and put it into 8 years, you know what I mean? Would it?
Well, you come up to 2 point some odd, right?
Would it end up being like 3 years? You know? So that's the only difference that they would see. Because I know they see birthday parties, I know they see weddings, they see grandchildren. So I know they see activities that happen, and they're watching apparently because they're watching those people that they still know. I had one this last weekend for Jake that, and he won't mind. He says he wanted to talk to his grandmother, and she said, "What did you do to your hair?" And he had just put it in dreads, and his grandmother right away noticed that. So, you know, what is there any time he had just done that? And to her, that's not what he would have looked like when she last saw him.
Yeah. So you're saying, I'm trying to get my arms around what you're saying. The distance and time of death, how long they've been dead, and some denominator, what?
Like 3 seconds. Like if you considered, you know, every day 3 seconds, does that actually only equal, you know, like 3 days?
And I don't know, because I've tried to ask Spirit those questions, and they refuse to answer it, or they'll go silent on you. Or I've had them up to and including say "fuck you." They don't want to go through the exercise because I think, and I haven't asked it yet, but I should. Is it too hard for us to comprehend with our small brains or the inability thereof? And maybe they'll say yes.
Well, I think they care.
They don't. It's an exercise in futility for them.
Yeah, and where they are, they couldn't care less.
No.
To them, it's just fun, and they're fine, and they're keeping an eye on us, and everything's cool. So.
Yeah, none of the. That's a very good point. And what cares to us, and the process of experimentation and exploring the universe continues, because it's exciting to not so much our spirit, but the body, the spirit resides in us here, because we're spirit just in the human experience. That's all. We just got this cloak on, and then we go back to spirit. I believe that our spirit remains in an environment of spirit longer than it does in the human condition of any form.
Definitely.
Okay. So this is a out of the ordinary experience for us, because it will end, and then we go back to spirit.
Right.
That's why biblically God said, "You shall not remember the former."
Right.
I guess I want to remember the former, but I think it would ruin my life right now if I knew the former.
Well, we talked about this, though. You have a remembrance of medieval, or a preference towards that era.
There is a girl in the early medieval period that I am so in love with. I know what she looks like. I have an affinity toward that time. I don't remember living there, but I have a love for a woman, a girl, because I was young then. But I don't know how I died. I think I ended up trying to be a knight or something, and something went bad. But yes, I have an affinity toward that. I love it. And I have when you feel love, you can't describe it. I have that feeling for a girl in that period. Crazy stuff.
And I think that's your memory of that. We have bits, we have deja vu.
Yeah.
I think we've been here before.
That comes from the spirit. That comes from spirit, I'm convinced.
That's part of our memory, I think. That pops through. Every once in a while it will just, you'll go, I've been here before, or I've done this before, or I know this person, or you automatically feel connected to somebody, and you're like, I don't know this person, that's so weird, and I think that is part of our memory, because we recycle people in our lives, the same people.
The one kid that we did an investigation in Grand Rapids proper, he was drawing a house of his life he had before, and he was married, and he even mentioned the woman he was married to. We tried looking her up, couldn't find her, and he didn't quite know what age, but he did kind of draw out a colonial style house, which they exist today too if someone wants a new one, but that's about all he knew. And he said she would visit him often, but that was that time, and they will never be married, at least in this physical realm again, and you move on with your own lives, because what family you have now you certainly won't have then.
No, it says something in the Bible too about finding your own tribe. You're born of a family, but you don't find your own tribe. You have to look at your tribe.
Yeah.
So that says a lot. That's a lot of what happens with families when they go different ways. But you end up finding people that love you, or you love just as much as you did your family when you were all getting along.
You're breaking up a bit, but I think what I can say is that there's some people in this world that we live that you see and you just get the heebie-jeebies. You just get that creep factor, and I don't want, to be anywhere near that person right from the get-go. I don't know where that comes from, and I don't know where thoughts come from. You think about what you're going to think next, and it doesn't happen. Thoughts come from somewhere, and we don't know what the next thought's going to be, which is, I think, from spirit. Spirit is an integral part of who we are, and because when we pass, you said yourself, Debra, that a lot of our characteristics from this life go with it, especially personality. A strong personality will come through you first. Does that spirit hold on to that personality way through the next million years before potentially they come back?
No, I don't think so. I've known some that have crossed over and come back as somebody different fairly quickly, and other ones that have gone a really long time. So it just depends. I think it's all individual. And I think they show us the personality that we remember, but not necessarily it's their true personality. It's the personality that they had when they were here last.
I see. So whatever connection they're trying to make
right
to when they were here, they have to emulate that. That's why in a lot of investigations, you try to emulate what that time was, or essence, so they can connect.
Yeah.
Get it? Okay.
Otherwise, they don't get, if they came back as a colonel, now, when they were a colonel then, just because they were in this life recently, we wouldn't understand who it was unless we knew our family history really well.
And I think that's why when you get into the para and understand it better, this life and the spirituality grows with it, and my belief in God and his son Jesus Christ, because it makes all the sense. And I'll tell you, I took a trip, you better believe, because I saw things. But what I can say is that knowing that all this is out there makes this life that I live now much more bearable, much more easy, much more comfortable. And I get out of the way a lot more.